Once upon a time, products were built to last a lifetime. In fact, did you know that there's a light bulb that's been burning for over 120 years and it's still going strong? But in the 1920s, a cartel was formed in the U.S. that limited the lifespan of light bulbs. Since then, industries care less about repairing for longevity and more about planning for replacements. And this includes the car industry. Today, we're talking about planned obsolescence and where the line blurs between business strategy and deception. Planned obsolescence is when a manufacturer is intentionally designing a product to last a certain amount of time and then become obsolete. You'll never guess this, but they say planned obsolescence actually started with the light bulb. Today in the U.S., your average incandescent light bulb lasts anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 hours, and LED bulbs last between 25,000 and 50,000 hours. Most consumers accept this as normal and good. But did you know there's a light bulb that's been burning for over 120 years? It's called the Centennial Light. You can find this miracle bulb dangling from the ceiling of a firehouse in California. There's even a website that streams live footage of this very bulb right now as you're watching the video. So why don't all light bulbs last that long? Imagine you buy this type of bulb once in your lifetime, you never need to replace it. If you guessed planned obsolescence, you'd be right. This specific light bulb was designed by the Shelby Electric Company in the late 1890s and has been burning since 1901. This light bulb's filament is 8 times thicker than what we find in modern light bulbs today. These days, light bulbs use thinner tungsten filaments that put out more light and burn hotter, but they also die quicker. So why aren't we all using the Centennial bulbs? What happened? In the early 1900s, the major electric companies included Osram, Philips, General Electric, and a few others. In 1924, they met and formed the Phoebus Cartel. Usually, when we hear the word cartel, we associate with narcotics and so forth. But yes, there was a light bulb cartel. Supposedly, their goal was to standardize light bulbs, which sounds novel on the surface. But actually, what they standardized was the limit they put on the life expectancy of light bulbs. They limited a light bulb to 1,000 hours, and any company that made light bulbs that burned longer than 1,000 were fined. This was a new kind of evil if you think about it. The cartel eventually broke up during World War II. During that time, research supposedly stopped, thereby preventing the development of longer-lasting light bulbs for nearly 20 years. Today, light bulb companies are focusing on developing more efficient technologies. Yet, that old filament-based Centennial light bulb is still burning in California. That's how the practice of planned obsolescence started, even before the word was coined. Planned obsolescence is a surefire way to guarantee that consumers will want to replace their product at a later point. This keeps product demand continuous and consistent. Some companies achieve this by making their products with cheaper, inferior parts that will just break. Then successive product releases include incrementally improved versions that make consumers feel that their existing versions are obsolete. And this moves consumers to buy the newest release. Eventually, at some point, if you try to get technical support for an older product, it'll be increasingly challenging to find. Just how common is planned obsolescence? You might be surprised. In recent decades, this has become the new normal for product designers. But actually, this approach isn't new. We can find this concept applied in all sorts of industries. Think of high-tech, fashion, and even light bulbs. And car companies are some of the best experts at planned obsolescence out there. If you're wondering how planned obsolescence became a strategy, we have to go back to the early 1920s. Back then, new car sales were starting to drop, and it wasn't just because of economic factors. Believe it or not, car manufacturers were making their vehicles too well. Why spend hard-earned cash on a new car if your old one's working just fine? So, car manufacturers had a conundrum on their hands. How could they get consumers to upgrade to new cars? In 1924, General Motors came up with a plan. It was based on an idea suggested by an executive, Alfred P. Sloan Jr. First, they started releasing cars with limited edition colors. All of a sudden, the black Ford Model T started to look boring and outdated compared to these brand new colors. Actually, Sloan borrowed this concept from the bicycle industry. This is known today as aesthetic obsolescence. Henry Ford, on the other hand, still clung to an engineer's value of simplicity, economics of scale, and design integrity in cars. In 1930, GM suppressed Ford's sales and became the dominant company in the industry. So you can see the strategy worked. And since then, other car manufacturers have followed suit. Today, General Motors isn't the only car company that plans for aesthetic obsolescence. For example, look at the new generation Volkswagen Jetta and compare the 7th generation previous one. All you have to do is look for those sculptured body lines that run along the side windows. Anytime a company adds any sort of special features to make a new model line stand out, usually creates one thing, an inferiority complex for owners of previous models. The irony is that Volkswagen is now using planned obsolescence because in the past they specifically made fun of it. This concept concept was so widely known in the 1950s that in 1959, Volkswagen mocked in its advertising campaign. In fact, one of their advertisements said, "We do not believe in planned obsolescence." Another said, "We don't change a car for the sake of change." And one of their most famous advertising campaigns was designed by Doyle, Dane, Bernbach. It showed an almost blank page with the line, "No point in showing the 1962 Volkswagen. It still looks the same." Ha! Well, times have definitely changed, and Volkswagen, too, has changed its mind on this. Today, consumers expect technology, better lights, grills, bodies, you name it. Everything is constantly being upgraded to make you want something new. But planned obsolescence can also be very subtle. It can be anything from purposely having parts wear out quicker to even raising the price of repair costs. Critics of planned obsolescence have valid reasons for resisting this practice. For one, just think of where all the old or obsolete cars end up eventually. After they're crushed, shredded, and recycled, the excess materials go to the dump. The more popular planned obsolescence becomes, the more waste it will cause. Also, replacing all these products with new ones takes further energy, resource, and money. Just rewind and step back to 1932. The Great Depression had been going on for about 10 years, and people were tired of it. There was an American real estate broker named Bernard London. He released a pamphlet called "Ending the Depression Through Planned Obsolescence." His idea called for the government to impose a legal obsolescence on personal use items. He believed this would motivate consumers to increase spending. But the phrase didn't become popular until 1954, thanks to an American industrial designer in home appliances, cars, and motorcycles. His name was Clifford Brooks Stevens. He was supposed to give a talk at an advertising conference in Minneapolis that year. What was the title of his talk? Planned Obsolescence. From that point on, this became the new catchphrase. In recent years, the term planned obsolescence skyrocketed to mainstream when Apple admitted to purposely tampering with the performance of older iPhones. Users were given a notification to update their phones, and when they did, that update actually slowed down their phones. And so users felt compelled to buy newer iPhones. Anyway, this came to be known as the Batterygate controversy. Apple later came out to say the update slowed down iPhones to preserve battery life and prevent older devices from crashing. Actually, that wasn't the only thing Apple made news for planned obsolescence. Not long ago, the Brazilian Institute of Politics and Law Software filed a lawsuit against Apple. This all started when the fourth generation iPad was released only 7 months after the previous version. The Institute claimed that this bizarrely speedy release with its Retina display, upgraded processor, FaceTime HD camera, and lighting connector was an exercise of unfair business practice. They believed that these updates could have been better implemented in the previous model, which would have reduced how quickly the previous iPad became obsolete. In recent years, because of planned obsolescence, Apple has been slapped with not one, not two, but 3 lawsuits. Italian Consumer Association, Altro Consumo, launched a massive class action lawsuit demanding $73 million from Apple. That comes out to about $73 each for each iPhone 6, iPhone 6 Plus, iPhone 6S, and iPhone 6S Plus owner. This lawsuit is related to Batterygate. Between 2014 and 2020, Apple sold around 1 million iPhone 6s and 6S models, and that's just in Italy alone. Interestingly, in 2017, Altro Consumo launched a platform called Troppe Vito Use, which in English means trash too fast. The platform enables consumers to report products that wear out too quickly. Guess what product was reported the most? You guessed it, smartphones. There are some industries and even countries taking the issue of planned obsolescence into their own hands. Take the European Union, for example. They've started to enforce new regulations where companies are being required to provide spare parts and servicing information for up to 10 years on certain products. Look at the aviation industry. The airline industry has established a reputation for long airplane service life due to continuous maintenance and refurbishment. The 747 plane came into service back in the late 1960s. For most people, the 747 looks the same as it did 30 years ago, but actually it's not. Everything on that plane has been renewed and upgraded, though you can't tell much by looking at it, because of continuous maintenance and upgrade. Rather than throwing away a plane and buying a new one, the 747 has a very long service life. Another plan to limit the practice of planned obsolescence is government-mandated product warranties that require products to last longer. For example, the Italian government guarantees at least 2 years of service on any new computer. When authorities set these types of quality requirements, companies are forced to use sturdier parts and better technology rather than inferior ones. It sets a minimum bar, so consumers are benefited. And if manufacturers don't honor the warranties, they would be sued for fraudulent claims. And OEMs can face consequences for violating implied warranties if a product becomes obsolete too quickly. This kind of mandate to protect consumers is ideal, but it's not that simple. Because, believe it or not, planned obsolescence is not illegal. That said, the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission does have the authority to issue durability standards if they want to. Planned obsolescence blurs the line between business strategy versus deception. Whatever your opinion is on this, one thing everyone agrees about product quality is generally that they just don't make them like they used to. But now, you tell me, do you prefer to keep and drive your car all the way to the end of its life? Or do you prefer trading it in after some years to get something new? Should planned obsolescence be deemed illegal? Please share your opinion by commenting below. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for your support.